This episode of On the Line is presented to you by Living.fit, your one stop for all your fitness needs. Make sure you go download the app Living.fit today. Now here's the show. Welcome to On the Line. Today I am joined by long-stay middleweight in the UFC. It is Brad Tavares. Brad, how we doing, man?
Aloha. Thank you for having me.
Dude, love having you. So how does it feel to be the Grim Reaper of the middleweight division in the UFC?
Cool, I guess. You know what? It's so crazy. Like, I remember just yesterday always being like that. Like, people asking me, like, oh, how old are you? This and that. And being the new guy, the new kid on the block, the young buck. And now I'm like one of the most veteran guys. You know, I've been in the UFC for 11 years now. This past fight was my 20th UFC fight, so I've been there a while. It all happened so fast.
I know. The reason I brought that up, though, is because the past two fights, you've beaten the crap out of these guys out of the UFC. So Omari, you beat him out of the UFC. ACJ, aka Shoeface, you beat him out of the UFC. Do you ever just think to yourself, like, man, dude, like I must be doing something right for cutting these guys after I beat their ass?
You know, I think I added it up once before. Like, I went back and looked at my career, and I looked at guys that I fought and that got released afterwards, and I was like, wow, there's been a few. But I always you know, like there's not really a lot of guys that I've fought that I dislike. The last two guys I fought, both Shoeface and Omari, real nice guys. So it actually kind of sucks on that aspect. But then the other thing to think back is like, hey, it could have been me, could have been me on the chopping block. Say they beat me and I'm the one that got released. So sometimes it's do or die.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it too. Like, especially you just said it a second ago, is like you've had 20 fights down in the UFC. So for everyone that isn't aware, how old are you?
I am 33.
See, if you said that to the general public, I feel people would be like, that is bullshit. There's no way you're 33 because you've been in there for so long. How do like all you guys from the islands, I feel like, come over and fight in the UFC at such a young age? Like, what's going on that causes that?
I think that just culturally, like in Hawaii, fighting has always been big. It's part of the culture. Me personally, I grew up like just getting into fights, I actually, if you look back at it, I do not have a martial arts background. I never boxed, kickboxed, did karate, jujitsu, wrestled, none of that. I played team sports growing up, baseball, and then when I went into high school, mainly football. I paddled canoe. I dabbled in like the throwing events and track a little bit. I just did those normal high school scholastic sports. And then the other thing I did was just get into fights, and saying it now is times have changed. Times have definitely changed. It's definitely not the same. Even in Hawaii. In Hawaii growing up, you never had to really worry about gun violence, weapons, any of that. The most you might have to worry about is you whoop somebody's ass and their older brother or cousin is gonna come get you, So
yeah,
but nothing crazy. So definitely, I think times have changed. But when I grew up, getting into a fight was normal. I got into a lot of fights growing up, and that's probably what ultimately led me to where I am today.
the streets taught you how to fight. Don't need anyone to teach you. The streets taught you.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, as hard as I thought I was when I first started training MMA, like if I look back at it now, like I was a clown, like definitely would got my ass whooped by a legit dude.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's you got to grow in the sport though, at some point. So
Yeah.
I do want to talk about your last fight because it was kind of crazy. So I'm gonna be honest. I bet on you to win by decision. So I was pretty happy about the results. But when Bruce Buffer started to read out those names, I can only imagine like your heart just sank.
Yeah.
Because
big time.
like what was going through your head when Bruce started reading off the judges' scorecards?
Well, definitely, you seen me after the fight, body language and all of that. I like right when the bell rang, like I was excited, high energy. Like I definitely felt like I won that fight, and I didn't feel like it was as close as, especially how the judges saw it. So as soon as he says Judge so and so has it, I was like, oh hell no.
hell no.
I'm about to get ripped off. I'm gonna get ripped here. luckily, ultimately, they ended up getting it right.
Yeah.
And it always sucks to be in that position. When I think about the fight as it was happening, when I spoke to Joe, I was like, you know what, I can see them maybe giving him round one, landing the takedowns, which I got right back up. He did nothing with. But immediately after the fight, when I finished all the media stuff, they took us back to our hotel room. That's the first thing I like to do is turn it on while it's still fresh and watch what went on in there. And as soon as I watched it back, I was like, hey, maybe I'm biased. I'm watching and judging myself, but I don't feel like I lost any of these rounds. And then I don't know what site it is. There's a site that all these different
Verdict.
media outlets. Is that the site?
I think it's verdict.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where it's like 15 or 20 dudes that judge fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was like 15 or 20. I think it was like 20 dudes judge it, and all 20 had me winning, and 15 of the 20 had me winning 30-27, with the other 5 coming in 29-28. So not one person on that whole panel saw me losing that fight. And as myself, I agree with that. So it was a bit scary. You see those things happen, and it's crazy to think that okay, the UFC has come, MMA has come such a long way. The sport has evolved so much, but yet we still see these types of decisions being made, as far as like everybody else in the world except this one or two judges see it a certain way. So something's got to change there. They got to figure out something. They should, I think it's on the commission. They need to play with it a little bit. Maybe for a fight card, say, hey, we're gonna go with 5 judges instead of 3, or something like that, or even just have, like, I've always thought that the referees were super educated on everything that's going on. They have to be. They're in there in the cage, live while it's happening. So I was like, what if the referees that are not working that night are also judges or whatever? So I don't know,
But they're
something
not
some
judges, so you have, like, multiple judges at every single card. You could have, like, whoever's not reffing, you're on the side doing
yeah,
judging, doing
exactly.
scorecards. Yeah. I also think doing a live scorecard too would be
I
so at
agree.
least you're
I agree.
aware, like, if you're
Exactly, exactly.
yeah. So, like, if
Because
you're down and you think
yes,
you're up, you can go for a finish or something
yes,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's bare minimum they could do, is the live scoring, because that would only be fair. Say like everybody else saw you winning 2 rounds and going into the third, but the judges didn't see it that way. At least okay, I got to do something spectacular here. If not, I'm going to lose this fight. So they should do that.
I think it would make a lot of fights, especially, like, in that situation, make it a lot more exciting. Because let's say a guy thinks he's up and he realizes he's down, he's like, "Fuck, dude, I gotta go." I feel like you get more finishes too because
Yeah.
guys are just like,
And granted, it
they're
would
aware of
probably
that.
also work the other way, to where a lot of guys would know they had it in the bag after 2 and just try to play it safe, but it would force that other guy losing to really step it up, and
Yeah.
especially in these close fights. But I think it's definitely a win more than a lose. Like, I think you'll get way more good out of it than you would see bad. You'll see here and there one of those let's play it safe type of deals, but for the most part, I think it would be super beneficial.
I think that's coming in the near future. I know they already put the fight clock around the ring. I think that's something that's going to be coming soon. And we talked about it a little bit before we got it live. Is you broke your foot in the fight? Like, would you know
Yeah.
when it happened? Like, when did you break your foot?
So here's the shitty part, is that it was the very last kick I threw. It was with 10 seconds left. I don't know
Oh
if you
my
remember the
god.
fight. I had hurt him with an
Yep.
uppercut, couple straight punches, a head kick, and then he was like trying to get away from me. So I threw that spinning back kick. And man, when I I knew that spinning back kick landed hard, but when I had snapped around, he was still standing. So I was like, oh, maybe I hit him in his chest or whatever. When I watched the video back, I actually have it they slow moed it. That's why after a fight, I hit the point of his elbow, which fractured my fifth metatarsal. I think that's the name of it. Um, Luckily, I did not have to do any type of surgery or anything like that. I was able to just stay off of it. They put me in a boot. For the first 4 weeks, I was just riding a scooter and crutching around. And then the last 2 weeks up until just today, I was wearing a boot. I was able to walk around in the boot, and now I'm back able to walk. And so now I can slowly start easing my way back into everything. The whole time it happened, I've been over there at the UFC Performance Institute and working with their staff. on both the therapy and the strength side to just make sure, I don't lose too much in this 6 weeks. And yeah, I think it's gone well. I haven't just been sitting on the couch for 6 weeks.
Yeah, I will say I do remember you at the very end of that third round trying to go for a finish because,
Yep.
as I said, I bet on you to win by
Yeah.
decision. I was shitting bricks. I was like, dude, chill, you won.
Yeah.
But I get it. You have to go for that killer instinct. But
Yeah.
no, like that's really beneficial though, since you moved to like you've been in Vegas for a while now. But having
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
PI there though, that's
Oh,
awesome. Like
honestly, that
more
thing was
people got to take advantage of it.
and they are. There are. We're seeing so many more people, UFC roster guys and people not, because they're hoping, especially because of this COVID stuff. A lot of guys are coming out here just on the hopes that something will happen on a card, and hey, sign me up. I'll fight on a week's notice, a day's notice. So having the UFC PI out here has been definitely game changing. Top to bottom, therapy, nutrition, strength and conditioning, all of it. It's sports science, like the list goes on. Last year during COVID, I didn't even realize that they even have a sports psychologist, and his name is Micah, and I finally met him, and I'm like, wait, like I thought he was one of the new interns. He's like, no, bro, I've been here for like a year. I was like, what? How have I never seen you or met you or ran into you? And we just kind of laugh about it. I call him the ghost employee of the PI. But yeah, like I said, top to bottom, that thing has just been a game changer. And lucky for us, and myself, I'm based out of Las Vegas, so I get to take full advantage.
Oh, for sure. And then I know before your fight, you're talking about going to a Garth Brooks concert. Were you able to make it?
No, so after the fight,
Oh
because of the
no.
broken foot, and granted, I
Oh
didn't know the foot was
no.
broken. It was just really sore, but that's normal
Yeah.
for me. I kick a lot in my fights. I hit knees, elbows, shins. I hit hard things with my feet all the time. So I bang my feet up in every fight pretty much. So to me, this wasn't out of the ordinary. It was sort of walk on, but like I said, not out of the ordinary after a fight. But yeah, when I finally got home, uh, my girlfriend was just like, you know what, that does not look good. Get off of it. This I was like, no, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then so my two cousins came up to watch the fight. And so it was my mom and a bunch of my nephews got to actually go to the fights, and then my cousins that were with them stayed at my house and watched it at my house. And so I was like, "Hey, you guys want to?" They're huge country fans. I was like, "Hey, you guys want to go to
Yeah.
Garth Brooks?" They're like, "What? Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." I barely can walk. I'm not gonna be able to really enjoy this concert. So they went. And funny enough, after the fights were finished and the concert was finished, which got out right around the same time, I went and picked them all up. I was Uber for the night. Went to go pick up my mom, my nephews, from the fights at T-Mobile. Shot straight across to Allegiant. Picked up my two cousins and headed back home.
Family man right
Yeah,
there,
you know it.
Never hurts.
Yep.
So, yeah, another split decision that I learned from listening to one of your interviews was when you fought Tom Watson, it was actually a split decision, but it was supposed to be unanimous.
Yeah.
And it's like going back and thinking about it, this is kind of last thing I want to talk about with judges is like that hurts your bank account if you lose.
Oh,
Like
hell
you get
yeah.
that 50 and 50 or whatever it was. It's just like, bro, that's 100K I should have, and now I only have 50.
Yeah.
Like that's some bullshit,
So before, like when I was earlier on at that point in my career, I feel like the little stupid stuff would bother me as far as like on paper, like, oh, it says split decision. So when you look at that on paper, you're like, oh, that was a really close fight. But if you actually watch the fight, you're like, well, that wasn't close at all.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff used to bother me. But now, like you said, it's more of hey, as long as they get it right at the end of the day and I get my paycheck, the people that watched it knows exactly what happened. And you still got that green check mark next to your name. That's the most important thing. But yeah, like
That
could
is the
you
most
could
important
you
thing.
imagine that? Like say like this fight. Say they rip me off on a split decision and I'm sitting down for 6 weeks with a broken foot. You know how much that would have sucked? Like luckily they got it right. And I was like, okay, I broke my foot, but at least I won. At least I'm coming off the win. So that if they would have messed that up, dude, I'm with a broken foot. I just got robbed. I got robbed twice.
Couldn't
I
go to
was,
Garth Brooks.
yeah,
Like,
dude, I would have
what
been
else?
livid.
It's happening too much now. There's too many guys getting robbed. But anyway,
Yeah.
let's move on from the judges. It's kind of been a bad topic for a while, but like when you were working to become a full-time fighter, you worked in an airline and you were
Yep.
like a customer service agent.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever have people come up to you and recognize you?
Not so much at the time. So I used to be on when I first started working for the airlines, I was on the ramp. I used to work for Hawaiian
Yeah.
Airlines. I used to throw bags, and then it was my coach Brandon Wolf had always had this plan for the younger generation of fighters in our gym. And it was okay, in 2 years, we're gonna fight every single local show that we can. We're gonna win all the belts that we can, beat everybody. And then in 2 years' time, we'll move to Las Vegas because at that time, so this was like 2007, 2008. At that time, Vegas was still one of the meccas of not just fighting itself, but like training. Couture's was huge. It was still one side back then, but as far as like who was on the mats, it was the who's who. It was very much more exclusive to where our practices today are still invite only, but we're a lot more open door and accepting. Back then, if you showed up and without an invite, you weren't allowed to train. You'd just be shown the door. Like, nah, sorry. Like we don't care who you are, just nah. You know, MMA back then was on the rise, but still not what it is today. You could go anywhere today, I feel like, and find a decent gym, a gym that you can get some good training out of. And almost every gym, I feel like nowadays, has a UFC fighter or a high level Bellator or PFL fighter in their gym. So anyway, Wolf came up with this plan, and almost 2 years to the time he came up with it, job transfer within the airlines came up. I put in for it. I was awarded it. They're like, yeah, you got to be there next pay period, which is in 2 weeks. So I had to pack up my whole life and
Oh
and
my
hop on a plane
god.
in 2 weeks. And I came up here, and I was a customer service agent. So this was before the Ultimate Fighter, before UFC, before any of it. So I would get recognized here and there from like the hardcore MMA fans, mostly from
Okay.
Hawaii, that had seen me fight. Like, hey, you fight, blah blah blah. But yeah, so I had did a lot of uh day trades, took all the vacation I could, and called in sick ahead of time for to take that. I think it was 6 weeks, to take that 6 weeks off of my job, because I've always been that guy. Like, I like to have, a backup plan. So just in case, like, I didn't want to come to Vegas without a job and burn myself out and be right back to Hawaii in a month. So I came up here with a job. I didn't want to quit my job and be like, okay, if things, it's life, things happen. I might have got an injury, whatever. And if that Ultimate Fighter path didn't work out, at least I still have my job. But ultimately, it all worked out. It was my doorway into the UFC. And yeah, after coming out, I decided, what, I just got to focus on fighting. So I quit that job, and, I've been in the UFC and fighting ever since.
It worked out. Is
Yeah.
that was a part of the backup plan? Was that also because of the whole JUCO experience? Would you say?
Nah, I would say just I've always been like that. I've I I'm a firm believer in, okay, you gotta make sacrifices, and you gotta go all in at times. But I like to be very real about things. Like when I was living on Oahu, and Hawaii is, as you know, very expensive. I was living on my own. I had an apartment. I had to work full time. And I was also, when I first moved to Oahu, I was going to school full time. So I was working full time, going to school full time, and trying to train. And the training started off more so as, after football, I was like, I'm fat. I'm 240 pounds. I need to get into shape. And I'm not one of those guys that is easily motivated to go to the gym and hop on a treadmill. Nowadays, I can do that. I'm much more motivated. But back then, I was only motivated by like fun things, sports, and, competition. So I started training. The guy I was training with was like, hey, you want to fight? Like, I'd been training for like, I don't know, 3 weeks maybe. I was like, sure, let's do it. So, I took a fight, and then I was like, oh yeah, I gotta get into shape. I gotta get to like an actual like weight that I would fight at. All of that stuff. So that's really how I started training. And then at that point, when I realized, hey, I'm kind of good at this, that's when I was like, okay, I'm doing so much things. I'm working, I'm going to school, and trying to train. Like, I'm running out of time in a day. Not working was never part of I always had to work no matter what because of how I wouldn't be able to support myself. So I was like, okay, it's between school and training. What do I want to do? And how I how I came up with it, I was like, well, my brain might not always be as sharp as it is right now, but definitely physical ability goes with age. So I was like, you know what? Let me just I dropped out of school, college. I finished high school, but I dropped out of college. I was like, nah, I'm gonna just focus on training and see where this takes me. And honestly, at that time, I never thought I'd be right where I am today. But I just knew that I had to give up something because I was half-assing it too much. Like I wanted to train more. I wanted to do better at this, and I wanted to do good in school too. But school was boring compared to
Bro, it
training and
fucking
fighting.
sucked.
Yeah, and
Like, I went to school for 4 years, bro, and I fucking hate it,
yeah,
except when I did this kinda stuff, but, like,
yeah,
yeah, I get
yeah,
you now.
yeah. So that's what it was, and that I don't know. I've kind of always been that way. Like I don't like to like for instance, like I see people, not just fighters, athletes in general, like fucking go broke, and it's like, dude, getting paid what you get paid, especially like the mainstream big time sports, football, basketball, baseball. Is like, dude, how do you guys go broke? You guys make six figures on the practice squad. Like how long it took me to make six figures in fighting. But I think it's just
If you
how.
win too, if you
Yeah,
win. Yeah.
you could be on a freaking losing team practice squad for however long, you still making six figures. But yeah, so it's just yeah, I guess it's just how they live their life, and I've never wanted to be that guy like paycheck to paycheck and just burning myself out financially and all of that stuff. So yeah, but hey, it works out. Like I live a
It worked
comfortable
out.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely worked out. I mean, you're in the UFC. You're ranked fighter. You can't ask for anything better. But another thing is at Extreme Couture, you kind of talked about it, is I mean, like it's a massive gym, a ton of massive guys.
Hmm.
How did you end up sparring Francis Ngannou? Like, how was that allowed?
Oh, it's because we don't have a lot of freaking big guys. I'm like you know what? Back in the day, I remember. So when I first came to Vegas, like I said, it was the who's who on the gyms.
Yeah.
This was right before Vanderlei opened his gym. The Tap Out gym had just opened up when I got here. So there was still the load of guys in Couture's, big guys, small guys, all guys. After it kind of died down at a point, and I was like one of the biggest guys on the mats. And I'm not too much bigger than the 7 years, but all the rest of the guys were 7 years. It was myself, Mike Pyle, Martin Campman, Jay Huron. So I could train with those guys, but there wasn't anybody like my size or up, like middleweights or even 205ers. And then there was an occasional like heavyweight, which, they're so much bigger. But it's still now there's a lot more, I feel like, heavyweights and stuff, especially with PFL being around and the connection that Ray has with all these guys. So Francis has a lot of bigger guys, but I spar Francis because I'm like the next guy closest to him in size. And at first it was very scary because Francis was a little bit of a spaz when he came, like I guess things are just different. But then he realized like he realized not to break his toys or he's not gonna have any more toys to play with. But yeah, it's still, dude, that guy is such a freak of nature. Like it's hard to come across somebody as big as he is, as powerful as he is, as fast as he is, that is still coordinated, that has good footwork, that can move, that is long. Like you don't like that guy is the real deal. Like
Dude, he's the truth.
yeah, like
He's the truth.
I've sparred with big dudes that are like other heavyweights, and I have a speed advantage over them. I do not really possess that over Francis. And the scary thing is like even when you exploding in, like he's so long that you have to get in that range. Then you get in that range, you have to worry about running into something. And even if he's not like throwing it with intent, still he's a freaking 275 pound freaking brick. So
Superhuman. He is
yeah,
literally a superhuman.
no, he is. But you know what? I get a kick out of it. I like he knows that I always tell him, he's like, Brad, let's go round two. And I'm like, bro, no, I have a fight coming up. I like that's the last thing I need is your big ass just sprawling me out or something and hurting me. If I don't have a fight coming up, I like it because it almost gives you like that's a close the feeling wise, it's like gives you that sense of almost like how it is in a fight, like the nerves of it, like you got to be sharp, you got to stay, on your toes, and you cannot, the second that you like relax a little bit, boom, you're getting punched by this guy, and his punches come fast and hard, so you don't want to get punched by that guy.
Anyway, all right, I got one more question before we go into this little dumb question thing where it's like really simple stuff. But you went through about a 2.5 year period where it was either injuries and didn't get a win. It was, but you only had 2 fights.
Yep.
But was there kind of was there like doubt creeping into you at that point because like you went 0-2? I think you tore your ACL. You had a shoulder injury or
Yeah,
something like that.
so it
Yeah.
no, no, I would say, I wouldn't say doubt, more frustration, just because I know my worth, and I know my skill set, and how good I am. And then just looking at that stint doesn't portray what I know, if that makes sense. But yeah, prior to fighting Izzy, I was on a 4 or 5 fight win streak. And then I fought him. We went the distance. I ended up breaking my arm in that fight. And then I had, due to what I think is doctor mishap, I had complications with it. Ended up having a surgery after being told I didn't have to have a surgery, but I use it as a learning lesson. But ultimately, that put me out little over a year. And then I came back, fought Shabazian, dropped that fight. And right after the Shabazian fight, I'm like, okay, take a little time off. Let's get back on the horse. I tear my ACL, puts me out another year, COVID and all of that. But I like to, I'm very optimistic. I don't like to get down and in the negative, because I feel like no good can come from it. Once you start letting the negativity snowball, it just keeps going. So yeah, don't get me wrong. There was times in that stretch that I am frustrated. It's like, dude, like, why does all these things keep happening? But like, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. It's God's plan, and um, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like, what are you gonna do about it? We cannot change time. We can't alter it. It happened. So you can either sit and sulk and be negative, or you can just work your way out of it, be positive, and look forward to what's to come.
Oh, 100%. And so like it's also good for the brain too if you take kind of a long break too. Like I mean, you guys
Yeah.
get punched in the face for a living, and like that's got to be good for the brain, and it's got to be good for the chin. I feel like if you're
Yeah,
not getting hit in the face
I
that
I
much.
I I definitely think so. Because you look at guys that have had long careers and were like known for their chin, and after a couple times of their chin getting touched, and they probably came back too soon. That
Yeah.
their body just goes into that, like their body mentally puts them into that stage, like, oh, okay, now you get touched, I'm just gonna shut down. And I'm sure there's some science behind it, but there's still a lot of unknown with the brain and brain trauma, brain injuries. So, we only have a small window to do this, but life is long afterwards. And there's a lot of guys out there who are dealing with, like the CTE stuff, the stuff that is now being brought to light. And I have a family, there's life after fighting, and nobody knows what's gonna happen. But I hope, and pray that, I'm not one of those guys. Like, I cherish my brain. Like, I don't ever want to be like, how like Ali was, or those type of guys. I know, like, there's like Spencer Fisher. I recently watched his little short documentary that he did. And it's very sad, to think like, dude, this guy was just where I was, some years ago. And to see that happen to them. So it's one of those things. It's scary because we don't know. So yeah, when I always think about that, that's like, what, I'm letting my brain rest. We don't know what's really going on in there. There's no X-ray really that you can do to see like, okay, 6 weeks you'll be fine. Sometimes you just don't know.
You can't predict the brain. That's the worst
No.
thing about it. Want to once again thank the sponsor of the show, Living.fit. It's that time of the year again, and Living.fit is your spot to help achieve all those New Year resolutions. Living.fit is a health and wellness company that will help you achieve all your goals, from building muscle, losing fat, and maybe trimming up that dad bod you've been accumulating over the years. Not only are there workout programs, we can help with your nutrition and build out your home gym. If you're a trainer looking to get certified in kettlebell or battle rope movements, we're the place to be. Make sure you go visit the website or download the app Living.fit today. Now back to the show. So anyway, here's some kind of like weird, dumb questions. Little, I don't really need research to do these, but first one is: are your kids going to go into MMA, or is that what you want them to do, or are you kind of just like whatever they want to do, they're going to do?
Nah, yeah, I'm very supportive. Like whatever my daughter wants to do, I'll support her in that, and I hope it's not fighting. But I do want to make sure that she does know how to defend herself. We live in a shit world these days, and I definitely am gonna train her so that she can defend herself. She can also try and defend others that can't defend themselves. And as soon as she's old enough, I'm gonna train her up in weapons and guns and bows and everything, and as long as she can protect herself. But honestly, I want her to, I'll support her in whatever she wants to do, but hopefully she wants to be like a doctor or something, along those lines. Fighting ain't the route to go for my kids.
I feel that. This is kind of a more sentimental thing. What was the biggest regret of your career?
Biggest regret. Whew.
Or maybe going back, you're like, damn, I wish I did this instead of that.
You know what? Like I said, I think it's kind of my mindset. Maybe if I really thought long and hard about it and thought about everything fight to fight and this to that, um, I would be able to come up with something. But like I said, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, even if at the time it's happening, that reason is not clear. Everything that has happened to me, that I've done, that I've not done, has led me right to where I am today. And today I'm a very happy man. I'm blessed with a great family, healthy family, and yeah, a good life. So when I look back, yeah, I'm sure there's some things, nothing off the top of my head that I can really think of.
You're all good. I get
Yeah.
some of these questions are really basic, so
No,
and
no,
a
no.
lot of them are
Yeah.
like, no. That's why I preface it by saying
Yeah.
they're dumb questions because they're super basic.
No, no, no. Well, I know, like, so leading up to the fight with Whitaker, um, there, like, I had, right before that fight, I dealt with a lot of personal issues.
Yeah,
And I think one of my biggest regrets about that is I should have uh open up to let my coaches and my team know where I was, like, mentally and stuff, so that they would be able to be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this, like, physically you're fine, but this sport is like 90% mental, so when you're
yeah.
not there mentally, um maybe they would have been able to be like, hey, let's not do this or that. And again, like, I hate bringing up this type of stuff because I'm not the one to make excuses. When I fought Whitaker, he beat me, fair and square. He was the better man that night. So I'll never, like, use anything that was going on. I'm sure he was dealing with some stuff in his life. So, I'll never use that in any case to make an excuse for, a performance, a loss, whatever it is. But yeah, I think I learned a lot from that one. Like, yeah, be more. I didn't grow up like a very open dude, like, I don't talk. I'm a shut in. Like, when I'm dealing with stuff, I'll deal with it myself type of dude. So at least from that experience, I learned, like, hey, although this is just you in a cage, this is still a team sport. You have these coaches and mentors for a reason. Talk to them. So I would say maybe that.
Okay, is this is kind of follow up for that. Is Whitaker still the hardest puncher you've ever fought? Is he still the guy
Uh,
who's hit the
you
hardest?
know what? I've never, like, yeah. So in my career, I've been hit, I've been put down. I've suffered a few uh knockout TKO losses, but as far as, like, those guys that hit, like, those shots, you don't ever feel them, so it's hard to say, like, I don't know, with adrenaline and everything, it's hard to, like, even say, like, oh, this or that guy is the hardest puncher or kicker or whatever, because to me none of that stuff, like, really hurts. Like, even, like, I seen some crazy stat in this last fight. Who did Israel fight? Who did he fight last?
Vittori.
Vittori. Yeah, I seen some crazy stat that in a fight against me and him, he landed like something like 30 some odd leg kicks or something. And in the fight, I didn't feel a single one of those. My legs are fine. I was, I 5 rounds we went kicking my legs and I was fine. But the second that the adrenaline dumps off and you start feeling all of that, so
It starts to balloon.
yeah, it starts to, you feel all of that trauma that you just experience. But yes, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to say who the hardest puncher is. You know what? One thing I would be able to put my finger on is the best wrestler I've faced is Yoel Romero. Hands down. Hands down. Like people like think, like, don't get me wrong, he is a strong guy, but he wasn't like freakishly strong. Like, oh my God. Like I've come across, and it's always been bigger guys, 205ers, heavyweights that I'm like, holy shit, that guy is strong. But Yoel Romero was just, dude, his wrestling technique, I had never experienced anything like it prior. I had never come across a wrestler of that pedigree. Like the things that he was doing, like it's small things. I'm sure wrestlers could see it, but just the things that he was doing with his hips and his setup to things is what made it look, like when we fought, like from the outside, like, oh wow, he looks so strong or whatever. And it was more than just his strength. It was his technique and his setup to things. And yeah, so as far as like that goes, that's something I can put my finger on. Best wrestler I've ever faced that I've kind of been like kind of wowed by, like, wow, I would love to train with that guy wrestling just because I think he's that good.
And he doesn't use it that much either, which is crazy.
Yeah, which is crazy.
To be fair, he does have rocks for hands, and he just
Yeah,
knocks people out. But I mean, yeah, that's one of the things that kind of shocks me. He's such a good wrestler, and he just kind of rarely uses it.
he's one of the best wrestlers. One of the best.
Oh, 100%. Here's another question. Then when is the blonde hair coming back? I know you brought it back after like 2 fights ago, and then it went. And you didn't do it for the Omari fight.
Yeah, in the Omari fight, I still have a little. I don't know if you can see it. It's
Yeah,
like
the little tip.
a little, like, yeah. Yeah, so I used to, back in the day when I first started fighting, every fight I would do like my hair a different style. I've had like a blonde shave, like the sides, just had like a blonde mohawk. I did like 3 blonde stripes in my hair before. I used to, do something different all the time. I used to dye my hair a lot all the time. Pulled it through the cap and highlighted it and bleached the whole hair slim shady, all of that. And this time when I dyed it, it had been a while. I had actually bought all the dye and everything to dye my hair back in March of like 2020. And then COVID hit. And then for whatever reason, you would think that, you got time on your hands. But I got, as funny as it sounds, I got busier during COVID, dealing with like the rehab of my knee, started picking up mountain biking as a new hobby. Just, for whatever reason, I got busier with my daughter all the time. But yeah, ended up dyeing my hair right after the fight in Abu Dhabi. And I honestly wanted to do it again, but dude, that dye torched my hair. My head was like a Brillo pad, like a wire brush. Like it killed my hair. I was like, dude, I need to,
Jeez.
yeah. And I did it
You need to go to like
professionally.
professional.
No,
Oh,
I
that's
did.
what's nice. Yeah,
I did it
really.
professionally. I did it at a salon. They used all the right stuff and the toners and the this and the that. But yeah, it torched my hair. And I remember when I was younger and I used to dye my hair, I used to kill it, but I didn't give a fuck. I was like, whatever. It's just hair. It'll grow back.
Exactly. Well, eventually, I mean, actually, you're still 33. You still have time.
Yeah. Luckily,
what's
I think my hair will always be there because both sides of my family, my grandpas, still have all their hair, but I'll probably be like silver fox. Like I'm getting the load of grays already, and it's just genetic.
Are you doing the touch of men, or are you just gonna let it ride?
Just let it ride. Let it ride. When it gets all salt
Okay.
and pepper, just shave it off or dye it blonde.
Just go back to the blonde. Yeah. So like, have you ever been hit by a shot where you take it and you like think to yourself like, how the fuck did I just survive that? Or, like, do you ever have those shots where you're like, I should have been knocked out?
I've had those shots to where I've taken it, I've still been standing, and then later, like, forgot, like, wait, what? What are we doing?
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so funny story. When I was in Ultimate Fighter, uh, I was sparring with Chuck, and dude hit me with a right hand that I did not see, and it's not like he didn't like have any intention on it or anything. It just was one of those, like, it was just a gap in experience to where he was and where I was. I ran right into that thing, rung my bell. I finished the round, I finished the day, whatever. But we were sitting on the octagon, and this is over at the old Tough Gym that was next to the Palms, and I was sitting there, and then like I started like just I was lost for a little bit, and I remember like thinking that I was dreaming, but I wasn't dreaming. And then I remember telling Kyle Noak, I was like, bro, did we just train? And he's like, are you serious? I was like, bro, Chuck rung my bell, bro. I just forgot everything we just did. He's like, yeah, bro, we just finished training. He's like, dude, do not tell anybody this. I was like, no, I'm not gonna. And then what freaking like, I don't know, a little while after that, I fought Seth and I got soccer kicked,
Yeah.
knocked out right after that. And then they, so that, and again, back to the brain thing, they took me for a CT scan. They're like, oh, you're fine. I definitely had to have some type of concussion or something, but, I'm glad that I was still able to go on and whatnot. But yeah, so I got basically standing knocked out by Chuck. Then I got soccer kick knocked out. Like, knock on wood. Hopefully my brain will be fine at the end of all of this.
God, you hope so. What was
No.
what was I gonna say? So it sounds like almost like a Burgos knockout. Because remember when he got rocked and he just
Yeah.
sat there for a second and then he just
Yeah.
collapsed.
Well, his one was his body, like, probably delayed reaction shut down. Like, maybe
Yeah.
the adrenaline was, like, fighting the reaction, that stopped, like, that transmission to his brain or something. That was probably one of the craziest things that I've seen. Like,
That might have been like this. I know everyone gets knocked out. Like it's just like it's a dangerous sport. Like that might have been one of the scariest things I think I've
yes.
ever seen in the
Yeah,
UFC
because
because like his
yeah.
body just shut
He
down.
just
Yeah.
shut down. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. I didn't watch that fight live, but somebody was telling me about it, and I was like, oh, I gotta look this up. So I think I don't know, they posted a clip, or maybe I like jumped on like Fight Pass or whatever it was, and I watched it back, and I was like, dude, that was kind of scary. Like he got hit, he looked fine, looked like it didn't phase him, and then boom, slowly but surely his body started reacting to it.
Never seen anything like
Yeah,
that.
that was
Ever.
pretty crazy.
That's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
So I got a couple questions for you, and they're both kind of stupid. So the
Yeah.
first one is: have you found out who runs the Facebook account with your name?
Nah. But you know what's funny
No.
is that Eric Nixick will write will write to that account every year on my birthday and tell him, "Happy birthday, fake Brad Tavares." Dude, that guy is crazy. Like, I don't know if he's still like super active with it, but I've had like actual friends, like not very close friends, but like guys that are my friends. We don't hang out often. And when I do hang out with them, then I remember the subject coming up and we're talking about it. And he's like, wait, that's not you on Facebook? I'm like, no, bro, I don't got a Facebook. He's like, motherfucker. I'm like, bro, what? He got you? He's like, yeah, he's talking to me on everything. Like, we had a conversation. I was like, yeah, dude, that ain't me.
That's gotta be some of the craziest shit.
Yeah, bro, I've had,
He's gotten away with it for so
dude,
long.
I can't
too.
believe like they've not like shut it down, like isn't like Instagram owned by Facebook or vice versa?
Yeah,
So like,
shouldn't that like
yeah,
be connected or something?
yeah,
Like it'd be the verified check mark or whatever.
yeah, I don't know. But I remember back in the day, like a girl coming up to me and be like, "Oh, blah blah blah. Is this you on Facebook?" And I was like, she could just tell by my face. I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, that's not you, huh?" And I was like, "No, no, sorry. I don't know what that person told you, but that is not me."
I stole this from like a bunch of people, but are you trying to get him the next Oliveira? Are you trying to get him that Oliveira Poirier card since you're undefeated on Dustin Poirier cards?
When is that card? If that card is at Allegiant
I don't
Stadium,
know
I
yet.
would love to be a part of it. But yeah, I mean, there's a few things. I would say there's two left that I really, places wise, or venues I should say, that I'm really looking forward to. One I kind of gave up hope on. It was my dream is from forever since I've got into the UFC is to fight in Hawaii on a UFC card. I haven't fought in Hawaii since 2008 or 9. And with all the success that Hawaii has had in the UFC, the champions, the legends like BJ, you would think that it would have been, like I remember back in 11 and 12 hearing that, oh yeah, next year, next year. And every year is next year, next year, next year. And then we had the last run, I think a few years back when the Hawaii Travel Authority was involved and Max was behind it for the push and I was, and then wham, 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 never happened. So I kind of gave up on that. But the only other place that I would love to fight in is right here in Allegiant Stadium, you know,
I mean,
Raider
they're
Stadium. That
need McGregor to get a win in so we can like make that
yes,
happen. You need it.
yes,
It's like it's just throw. I don't know who you throw him up against. Like that'd
dude.
be like a marquee
I,
fight.
I I've never been
I don't
like
know.
a huge McGregor fan or anything. But dude, I'm really rooting for the dude now. You know, like that he's the name that we need. You know, or I don't know, have DC come back and Brock come back and some like whoever the big name that needs to be to get it in Allegiant Stadium and then get me on that card. You know,
Because
my
I don't think John and Francis could get Allegiant Stadium, even
I
though
don't
that's
know.
like
It would have to it
that
would have to be huge. Like
like a super card.
yeah, it would have to
Yeah.
yes, it would have to be like all champions or like you said, like has to be like a huge name.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Anyway, you spoke about the Raiders though. This is for sure the last question. You're a massive Raiders fan. You got season tickets.
Yep.
This is going to come out. I don't know, maybe October or whatever. We're filming this back in August. The Raiders will be 6-2 as they have in the past couple of years. Are they actually going to break through, or are they going to go back and fall apart like they have the past couple of
You
years?
know what? Like I'm not that guy that this year is our year. This year is our year. When I was stoked when they hired Gruden, we had a lot of success with him in the past. And I knew that it would take a few years to get all the kinks out. One thing after year one I wasn't particularly happy about was I can't even I'm blanking on his Paul Gunther. They finally got rid of him. I just our defense looked like shit. They brought on Gus Bradley, who's I in my opinion, he's done a great job, I think, with the Chargers and in the past, I think he was part of Legion of Boom and the past defenses that he's had his hand in or been a part of. And I've seen some good things the first two preseason games we've had, but I've also seen some head scratchers. So it's just preseason. I'm always hopeful and I'm always standing behind my team, win or lose. And that's what the diehards do. But again, like I'm not this is our year. Like even after we had that great year in what was that 16 when we went on
When
that
Derek broke his
run.
back,
Yes.
yeah.
I wasn't one of those guys. Oh, next year this is our year. Like I'm not a. I'll talk mad shit the day of the game, like to whoever we're playing against. But I'm not that guy. Like I got a friend, shout out Bryce Spencer, my brother. He's a he's a diehard Dallas fan, and he's that typical like I don't hate Dallas. I hate his Dallas though, if that makes sense. Like my
Makes sense.
family
Makes sense.
is Dallas Cowboys fans. My dad is a Dallas Cowboy fan. I don't mind Dallas Cowboys except when I'm watching with my with Bryce. I cannot stand them. I cannot
Dak Prescott
stand them.
MVP. They're winning the Super Bowl. We're going 18-0. We're the best team in the NFL.
Exactly. Like
Oh, the
he's
worst.
my most annoying football fucking friend, I guess you could say.
Okay, I got you. I know what you mean though. There's some people like Bears fans when they were good a couple years ago. Mitch is an MVP, future of the NFL, and now he's already been let go, and they're already on their next
Yeah, where
franchise
where
quarterback.
where is he? Exactly. Where is he? Who are they now? Dalton and Fields, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
What in fact, what happened to Trubisky? I'm gonna look this
He's
up.
on the Bills. He's on the Bills. You can look this up after.
Uh
They played a preseason game. Mitch put up 35 in the first half against the Bears. Uh,
Trubisky.
Trubisky, man. Anyway, so that's all I got for you, man. So if there's anything you want to plug, social media,
Nah,
go for it.
fucking the normals at Brad Tavares on Instagram and Twitter. Actually, my Instagram is Brad Tavares 808 if you guys are looking for it. But I'd just like to say thank you for having me. It's been fun. This has been cool. It's just a little chit chat. And thank you everybody out there for the support over all these years and all the fights. And I love it. I feel it. Thank you.
For sure, man. For me, for Brad, we're out. Peace. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around with me all the way to the end. I just want to once again thank the sponsor of the show, Living.fit. If you're looking to better yourself, make sure you go to download the app or visit the website, Living.fit today.